imagine if you go to a train station or you go to the airport and there's the giant big board of destinations. You've got Tokyo and Rome and Istanbul and all these different places you could go. And she said, that's kind of the way it is before you're born. She says, there's this giant board and you pick the types of things that you want to experience so that you'll grow. And maybe you pick something very specific. So I want to have this type of parent, or maybe you pick something that's more general, that I want to have a fear of failure or a lack of confidence. And you pick all of these things and then you're born and you don't remember what you picked. But the universe or your soul circle is constantly tapping you on the shoulder to help you remember. And these things show up through our experiences or through people in our story.
Wow.
And at the start, it shows up as just a gentle little tap on the shoulder. And if we listen and we get it, then we move on past that. But if we don't, then it's going to show up again. And the intensity with which it shows up is always going to increase until it comes a giant 2x4 across the forehead. Like, pay attention. Like, you chose this, right?
Welcome to a Broaderlands podcast. The opinions expressed on Broaderlands podcast are those of the guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Broaderlands podcast. John, welcome to Broaderlands podcast. What an honor to have you on.
Thanks. What an honor to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, it's such an honor. You've sold a lot of books. I mean, I was looking, what's the total amount of books you've sold, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, worldwide, over 12 million. And the Café book in particular, The Café on the Edge of the World, is over 5 million.
Mm. Before the Café on the Edge of the World appeared in your mind, who was John before the message arrived? And maybe you could share a little bit. You could share a little bit about your upbringing and some key events that brought you to that pivotal moment.
Yeah. I've always been someone who was wondering what the point of it all is. Even when I was a kid, I distinctly remember looking at the world and trying to figure out, wait, how does this whole thing work? What's the whole point of it? Because it just seemed to me like a lot of people were unhappy. And the path of growing up was you do school for a long time. And I was pretty good at school, but I didn't really like school. And so then I thought, okay, so you're going to do school for a long time. Then you're going to do more school. And then you're going to get a job, and most people don't like their jobs. And then you do that until you're finally 65. And, when you're a kid, you look at someone who's 65 and you're like, whoa, they're really old. Now it's not so much for me. But, and then I realized, like, okay, you get to that point and you're not the same person. You're not physically as strong anymore. Maybe you're not as mentally strong. And so it just seemed kind of crazy the way humans lived. And I was wondering why that was the case. And I couldn't find answers. And nobody else seemed to be asking that question when I was a kid. And so I just kind of held it in my head and didn't really talk about it very much, but I was always wondering it. And then I guess I was always drawn to books about adventure. Like, I know in hearing you talk in different episodes and stuff, that you feel a connection to different places around the world. You feel a connection to Northern Africa. You feel a connection to these ancient civilizations. And I always felt a deep connection to adventurers. Like, I felt in my heart of hearts that that's who I was supposed to be. And here I was, just living on the same block, kind of doing the same thing. And so my dream was to someday be an adventurer. That's what I really wanted to be. And finally, after a series of crazy ups and downs and life challenges, I left everything behind when I was in my early 30s and went and backpacked around the world. And that was me really allowing myself to be the authentic version of me. And I was scared. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had never done something that like crazy before. Everyone said to me, it's crazy. That was the exact word they all used. But it changed my life. But just like everything, seeing the different cultures and the different people and seeing these unbelievable historic places as I traveled around the world, it finally felt like I was living. And before, it felt like I was preparing to live. And I think that was the huge turn for me. And when I came back, something inside of me said, sit down and start typing. And luckily I was in this beautiful wide open place because I had been trusting my intuition for a whole year as I was traveling. And so when the something said, sit down and type, I sat down and started typing, and it went on for 21 days. It was very stream of conscious, flowed through me. And that is what became the Cafe on the Edge of the World. And yeah, launched my life in a whole totally different direction.
Wow. How would you describe intuition? How does that intuition feel like for you for yourself?
Yeah, and I want to ask you the same question back because this is one of my favorite questions to understand for people because it seems like everybody's got a little bit different version of it. For me, in that moment, I was trying to remember whether it was actually a voice or just I heard it inside my head. I think I just heard it inside my head. I don't think I actually auditorily heard it. But in general, for me, intuition is a deep sense of knowing. I just know. And it could be something stupid like not, I shouldn't say stupid, something small. Like I'm playing sports, right? And I'm a big athlete. I still am an athlete, and I will know what's going to happen before it happens, and I'll get a very strong sense that this is what's going to occur, and it's like always right. It's 100% spot on, and so that's a very I say small because the consequences are small,
Mm,
but the fact that it happens so often and it's always right is unbelievable to me. And so for me, it's a feeling. I think I see it too now that I'm describing it to you, because like in the sports arena, I'll actually see what's going to happen in my mind's eye. And that's how I kind of know what's going to happen. And when you're traveling, you use this all the time. You'll just get a sense that, oh, go talk to that person or turn left at that corner. You don't even know why you're turning left, but something says turn left at the corner.
mm,
And I find it's like a muscle. The more times I follow it, the stronger and clearer the messaging is. So, how
yeah.
about for you? What's it like for? Are you auditory? Are you visual? What's it like for you?
I have this deep sense of inner knowing, and it's a feeling. It's a
Mm,
really strong feeling, and sometimes I could feel my insides glowing, like I had this inner
wow.
knowing. And other times it's just this feeling. I think for me personally, when I learned how to live more on a what we call a spiritual basis, to really just be more mindful in life and apply principles, they say when the mind is quiet, the soul will speak. And I can
Mm,
tap into that deeper inner being that's within all of us, that inner intelligence that some people call it the mystic within yourself or whatever you want to call it, but it's just really intuition, just inner knowing, and I think that's helped me a lot, but learning how to trust it is another thing.
yeah, because it completely flies in the face of the logic, and that's kind of funny to me when it happens sometimes that it's almost like it's playing with you because your left brain is going 100% no. This is a no. Like this is 100% no, and your intuition is going it's a yes. And I've found in my own life when I override the intuition and I choose the no, even though my intuition is telling yes, it always works out the wrong way. And so it's kind of like, how many times do you need to see this before you just start trusting, John? And I guess what I love about it too is I know from hearing your amazing story and listening to you on interviews that we grow up and depending on the environment we grow up in, we don't realize we have this ability to tap into this resource, this other guiding presence and I think the overarching thing there is that we're not alone. Like
Mhm.
I can't tell you the number of times people have come up to me doing book signings and I say, thank you so much for being here. What inspired you to be here? And they slide a copy of the Cafe book and they say, because I thought I was alone. And then in
Wow.
reading this, I realized I wasn't alone. And I think to me, that's a big part of the intuition realization is to realize we have this connection to this incredible resource anytime we want it. And that's powerful.
And you use the key word resource. I like to say inner resource as well, inner resource, and sometimes and something about intuition for me was a lot of times when it works is I don't understand why I'm doing something. I just know I need to do this, or I need to turn right versus left, or left versus right,
Yeah.
or I need to yeah. One time I when I first got sober, I used to go to a lot of 12-step meetings, and I started practicing prayer and meditation, like in one of the steps they ask you to do, and so I just sit quiet. And one day I had this inner knowing that I needed to go to a certain meeting. Never been there before, not knowing why I need to go there. And then I found a guy same background story as me that was suffering, and he heard me share, and the next you know, I've sponsored him, and he's sober to this day. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I had this inner knowing to call him one day in a meeting, and I called him, and he was about to pick up a drink, and, yeah, he just had the F-its and wanted to, you know, F this life, and,
Yeah.
I by calling him, it freaked him out, and then Yeah, he got sober. So, yeah, I just have these inner knowings, not understanding completely why I need to do this or that, but I just had this inner knowing I need to do it.
So, what do you attribute it to? Because that's one of the things I think it's easy to sort of try and figure it out. And I'm not sure we need to figure it out because just
Yeah,
knowing it's there and yours, that's a great example of when it pings you to make that call or it pings you to talk to that person, just do it. You don't have to know why. But I am curious, like, what is the processes that are going on behind the scenes? You know, like,
yeah,
because one of the things that's happened for me, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it, is sometimes it actually jumps time. You know, like it's
wow,
almost as if the intuition knew ahead of time that person was going to be there or be doing these things. You get the ping 2 hours earlier, like how, that really kind of warps your head around, or sort of makes you warp, kind of wraps your head around this thing in a weird sort of way. Like time is not the way we think it is if our intuition can guide us about something that's going to happen in the future.
yeah, that's interesting. Or even like when you're driving, don't take your normal route, and then later you find out there was a crazy car accident or there was a lot of traffic,
Yeah.
you know, and it yeah, it's interesting to think about. Another question I would love to ask you was, do you call that channeling, downloading, or just a stream of consciousness that started to flow through you? Maybe you can describe that moment when you started to get these downloads or start to hear. I don't know if it was a feeling, voices. What was
Yeah.
it? What do you describe it as?
It was almost teleportation, to be honest with you. So I'm sitting there at my desk, the laptop is open, and like I said, I had something inside of me said, sit down and start typing. And so I'm sitting there, and then next thing you know, I'm in the cafe. I'm seeing the characters. I'm hearing them talk. I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing the walls. I'm seeing the parking lot. And so it's very much like I went there. And I would say that's the case with all of my writing. When I sit down and enter the writing realm, that I now enter the place that I'm supposed to be. And my job is to capture it as fast as it's happening. And sometimes it's crazy fast. Like I remember the cafe book flowed through me over the course of 21 days only, you know?
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's kind of the best way I can describe it, is that I'm teleported to this other reality. And my job is to get it down as quickly as possible so that it can be on the page.
How do you look at Neil Donald Walsh in his story? He calls it conversations with God. Do you feel it's potato potato or
My
like
guess is it is. Yeah. So everybody's version of it might be slightly different. And again, I'm not just saying that this is a writing thing. I think you can have conversations and enter other realms for helpers, for resources. It's a crazy thing, but I think once you start thinking about that person, that you're now tapped into their unconscious and they're tapped into your unconscious, and you can have NVC, nonverbal communication. You know, you're thinking a thought or thinking a question and you're getting a response back. And much like with intuition, it's learning to understand and appreciate that voice when it comes back isn't your voice. And I say that from the perspective of writing. I can't tell you the number of times that I'd be writing, especially in the second cafe book. Actually, I'd sit there and I'd be writing, and something would come through me. And I knew 100% that 2 seconds ago, that was not in my head. Like it was a piece of wisdom or insight or something so powerful that was not in me. And
wow.
so I was just connecting and tapping into something else in that moment.
What about when someone pops into your head that you haven't talked to in a while, and then you give them a call and they say, "Oh, it was funny how I was thinking about calling you." What do you call that? There's this interconnectedness with one another at an unconscious level, maybe.
Yeah, totally. My guess is it's similar to intuition. It's just that you're fine tuning it to be one specific person. And,
Mhm.
technology is sort of catching up to the existing technology. So think about our cell phones. You literally can look at a screen and you tap a name and then they're there. They're on the other side of that call. There's no
Wow.
cord connecting you. There's nothing but energy connecting the two of you. It's really miraculous compared to what life used to be like not that long ago.
Mhm.
And I think that's the same thing that's happening. It's just the channel by which it's happening might be slightly different, or maybe it's even the same. I don't know. But it's going through the air, it's going through the ether, and you're getting the sense of the person, and then you connect with them. And the cool thing to me is that when you allow yourself to, as a human being, you can tap into people that have existed way that have long since passed. So if you, I mean, think of a hero, someone that you really admire who's passed away. When you think about them, you can have the conversation with them, even though they're not here anymore, even if you never met them before. And that to me is fascinating, because that is what I believe is the whole construct of the universe, that you are contributing to the collective consciousness with every action, with every intuitive thought, with every creative moment, with every emotion that you have, love. And so once you've created that, you become part of the universe, and it's perpetually there. And so you, me, anyone else can tap into whatever someone else created, just like they can tap into what we created.
So understanding this, it's not so woo-woo to hear someone like a psychic medium talk about, being able to communicate with the other side or loved ones for people.
Yeah, again, technology is catching up to technology. So we don't think it's weird that we can just touch a piece of a piece of glass and someone's voice or image appears on the complete other side of the world. We just accept that as normal now.
Yeah.
And so, correct. If their energy, I think it comes down to a fundamental belief. Do you think that people are energy, or do you think that this is it? You come here, you live your 28,900 days, and then you die, and that's it. If you think that's it, then maybe it's a little harder to fathom. But if you think that you're actually energy before you're born, you choose your life challenges, you enter the human experience, you go through all of this, and then your physical form dies, the vessel dies, but the energy still remains the same, then why is it so surprising that we can tap into that energy again? It's not really that surprising at all.
Mm. So when you had started to have a story come through you, who were these characters? Like, who were you tapping into? Were they beings? Were they this consciousness of information? Where was it all coming from?
Man, that's such a great question. To me, they're every bit as real as anybody else.
Yeah.
I have conversations, especially with Casey, who's one of the main characters in the cafe, all the time. And I had a very profound one. Actually, I was having a tough time going through something, and I said, like, I feel like you've left me. Like, I don't feel your energy. And she said, you're not the only one with problems, John. And
Wow.
it was so humbling. Because I was like in my own little pity party that day, and I was like, oh yeah, 100% right. And to me, that's the great thing. The cafe is a place that is open to everyone, and everyone can visit in their own way, in their own setting, and the wisdom that they find there will be the right wisdom for them, because these essences, these characters, but these are far more than just characters in a book. These energy sources, these energy beings are there to assist. They're there to help. And so whatever your challenge is when you enter the world of the cafe, much like the cafe questions change for every single person who visits, the type of wisdom, the type of advice, the type of stories you're going to hear while you're there are going to be reflective of where you're at in your life and the challenges that you're facing. So my guess is that they're higher level beings, and they just choose to exist in sort of the setting of the cafe. And I always say that had I not have demonstrated to the universe that I was willing to be an adventurer and follow my heart and pursue my purpose, that the cafe story would still exist. It would just have somebody else's name on the cover, that it was a reality, a channel that was waiting to be opened. And because I demonstrated that I was willing to be courageous and a co-conspirator in living my purpose, that it said, okay, you became a candidate. Congratulations. Now let's test this out. We're going to tell you to sit down and start typing and see if you'll listen, right? And then I did, and that opened up another level of the channel. And then I kept following it. And so now that channel is open, and I get to have my name on the cover and be part of it.
I love that. You often talk about the collective consciousness. How would you describe that to us? Or what exactly is the collective consciousness?
Yeah, this is another example of where technology catches up to technology. So we understand very easily now that I type something, I create an article, I make a video, and it enters the giant database of knowledge that exists on the internet. And so I can easily search that. I can go on Google and search it. I can go on probably, I don't know, depending on the country you live in, 100 different entry points to all of this data. It's not just Google. There's tons of entry points. And in my experience, that the collective consciousness works the same way, that every time you have a precious moment with your kid and you do something special, or they do something special, they make you laugh. They as the child see you and feel the pain that you're in a given moment and comfort you in a way that you thought was always supposed to be the reverse. You thought you were always supposed to be the hero for your kid, and you see your kid be a hero to you and a comforting source to you. In that moment of awareness that, oh my gosh, I don't have to be like always the one that's there for my kid, that if I allow myself to, it can be an exchange of energy. It can be an exchange of wisdom. Just because they're little doesn't mean they're wise. So let's say you have that epiphany, which I've had many, many times with my kid. And all of a sudden, that new paradigm exists in the collective consciousness in the same way that an article or a video would exist in the technological field that you could search. And the way that we search in the collective consciousness is simply by asking the question or simply by thinking the thought. And as long as that channel is wide open, we'll get the response back. We'll either get the ping that you got where, oh, call this person, like they might have the answer, or you'll just intuitively get a sense of, go look this person up on the internet. So I think the interplay is both between the collective consciousness and existing technology. And sometimes, honestly, it's just a download of knowingness. So I don't know. What's it like for you? How do you experience that?
I don't know. My friend Anoop, Dr. Anoop Kamoor, he talks about artificial intelligence and natural intelligence. And I love that. I think within us there's that natural intelligence and that interconnectedness, that inner resource that connects us all, that consciousness. And yeah, I don't believe we're separate from one another, but we're having a separate experience in this third dimension, But I think it's important to experience life as an individual, but also understand and remember our divine oneness, our interconnectedness, and and I feel like I've tapped into that inner oneness within us all, and I'm still having this dualistic experience, this conscious separation, but I'm also living in harmony with that oneness, even though we're living in this separate individual state that we're in. But yeah, it's changed me completely. My awakening, like I share this all the time, not all the time, but once in a while. But this is an interesting experience I had not too long ago. I was walking the lake with my dogs, and I seen a 3-year-old little girl with her father, and they're looking at the lake. And in order to see us, you have to turn around because we're on the trail walking with my dogs. Well, the little girl turns around and she sees like just pure, like she's like in a pure state of consciousness, just looking at life without filters.
Mm.
And then her father turned around and you seen him looking through the lens of his filters, whether it's his life experiences, his labels, his belief systems that he developed, his traumas, all, whatever, all those filters that we
Yeah.
all have. And I seen a whole different reality within the daughter and then within the father. I'm the father I need to protect, strangers. And she didn't have that
Yes.
yet. And that biblical quote, to be like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. It was like, oh, well, there's so many like it came to life. And I was like, wow, who experiences that walking their dogs?
That's beautiful. I mean, I think that's an interesting example of the interplay of the collective consciousness and this database of knowledge. So you had that amazing experience, and what a perfect way for the universe to present it, where you've got the child and the parent next to the child. Because as a parent ourselves, like you can understand and appreciate the desire to protect and make sure they're okay. And yet there is that beautiful absolute openness of a child. And you got to see the two of them together. And that could have just been your moment, right? You might have had that moment. It enters the collective consciousness because you experienced it with consciousness. And yet here we are talking about it. So now it's actually also entered the database, the human
Yeah.
database. And so maybe that's the whole point of ongoing technological advances, is to blend these two realities for some reason. I mean, it's a very interesting question. Like, why does the universe need it? Like if the universe is infinitely knowledgeable, then it doesn't really need more data. But my guess is that's not the case. The fact that we exist the way we exist tells me that there's a growth aspect to the universe. And so part of our role as individual essences of maybe the all-knowing one is that if you were to design a perfect system, you wouldn't just have one person, one entity out there having experiences, because it'd be such a limited data set. But if you split yourself across a billion sources of receivers who are all having experiences, now, man, oh man, you're filling the data set so much faster and so much broader. And so my guess is it's more like that.
I think in New Thought they call it the divine mind, but it's really the collective consciousness. It's, potato, potato.
Yeah.
But like, what's the difference? Is it similar to what people call the Akashic records or the book of life in the Bible? Do you believe?
It very well could be. My guess is that as times change, we're going to constantly find words that reflect the lens through which we see the world, as you said. So now
Yeah.
that we understand the concept of a database, I'm much more drawn to be like, yeah, it's the collective consciousness. It's like a database. But 200 years ago, I would have said the word database and people would have looked at me like I was completely from another planet. It's like, what the heck's a database? And so, yeah, I would guess it's constantly evolving and will continue to evolve.
I've heard a number of your talks, and one of my favorites was a TED talk you gave, and you used that museum analogy in one of your books. I'd love for you to break that down because I hear a lot of people and I interview people that had near death experiences, and some of them have what they call the life review, and they
Mm,
look at clips of their life. I mean, one of my latest one, he died. He said he died at 8 years old, and he came back and he seen his future clips, and he understood he knew he was going to Vietnam, and he knew he was going to be safe, and has some amazing stories. But what's your take on the I would love for you to talk about the museum because it's really, if you really look at it with the lens of the heart, it gives, I don't know, for me, it really helps soften my heart and have more compassion when I hear you
thank you.
talk. Yeah.
Thank you. The concept came to me actually, I was visiting a tiny little museum, and it was a museum that showed yearbook photos. And so it was all these people who were graduating from high school, and except it was from like 1920. And
Wow.
so I was looking at this and came to the realization or had the awareness that, wow, like all these people are gone. They're passed on already. They've left the human experience. And you look at them though in that moment and they have their whole lives ahead of them. And the overriding thought that came to me was, I wonder if they did it. I wonder if they lived the life that they were dreaming of living back then. Did they ask out that person that they thought was so fun and interesting and amazing? Did they get aboard the tramp steamer and go see the world the way they wanted to? Did they start the business that they thought they were capable? I don't know. But whatever their dreams were, I couldn't help but wondering, did they do it? And so as I was writing the Big Five for Life book, this idea of the museum kept coming back and cycling back in my unconscious. And so the idea is this, that imagine if every moment of our life is recorded, everything we do, everything we say, all the places that we go, all the people that we meet, basically all the ways in which we spend our time. And then towards the end of our life, a museum is built to honor us, except that that museum is going to show our life exactly how we lived it. And so if 80% of our life is spent on things that don't bring us joy or showing us not at our best, then 80% of the museum is going to be dedicated towards that. And there's going to be big murals and pictures and, huge exhibits all showing us spending our time on these things that didn't bring us joy or weren't us at our best. And if to the contrary, we loved spending time with our family or pursuing a particular passion or hobby, but for no matter what reason, we only spent 2% of our time on those things, then only 2% of our museum is going to be dedicated towards that. And maybe it's just going to be a couple of pictures right near the exit door. And the
Hmm.
big aha for me, the very profound moment came when I had the realization that maybe the way heaven or the afterlife or however you perceive this whole thing to work is actually consists of that we are the tour guides for our own museum
Wow.
for all of eternity after we die. And that just totally reframes the way that we spend our minutes, the type of behaviors that we exhibit, the choices that we make. And I love it for that reason. It was really profound when it hit me, and I've had the chance to share it with audiences all over the world. And it's one of those things that just sort of clicks with people. So thanks for asking me about it.
No, yeah, I love it. I love learning about that kind of stuff. I mean, it makes sense to me. It's like, maybe it's like a file of all our lives, all our experiences, all of our thoughts, our emotions, and in the expansion of consciousness, as we expand, the universe expands, the collective consciousness expands. In religion, we can say God experiencing God. I don't know.
Hmm.
uh, yeah, it's just a really interesting way to look at things. My friend Deantha Rose, she was just on not too long ago. She lives here in Arizona, but she talks about pre-birth memories, and I know that may sound woo-woo to some people, but just trying to have a broader perspective, like, whoa, like, is that possible, having pre-birth memories and having like a soul contract Just all that
Yeah.
stuff fascinates me. I try to stay open minded and just like, wow. I mean, she remembers her soul contract. She said, and that's just interesting. Maybe we do have soul contracts to go through certain experiences to learn and expand from. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
So I will tell you, I had this amazing experience. I wrote a book called Life Safari, and
Mhm.
I had it download over the course of 10 days, and it was coming through me so fast, I could not keep up the pace of it.
Wow.
And luckily, I was home by myself. My family had gone off for a small trip, and I had the house entirely to myself. And I wrote. I say I wrote, but in truth, it was downloading through me like nonstop for 10 straight days. And it was so real. It was so vivid that at one point there's this very emotional moment in the story, and I won't spoil it for people who are going to read it. But it's this very, very emotional moment in the story. And I knew what that moment was going to be. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, that moment happens. And I pushed back from my desk and I yelled at the top of my lungs. I was like, no. And I had tears just streaming down my face. I was crying because I was there. I was in Africa. I was experiencing this for real
Wow.
as it was happening. And the main character is this amazingly wise sentient being called Mama Gombe. And she
Mhm.
describes to the main character, Jack, the way that the universe works. And this is something I had been asking myself and thinking about and wondering about my entire life. And now here I am sitting as this is downloading, but as I described the cafe, this is now I'm in Africa. Like I'm there. I'm in Africa. I'm with her. I'm seeing it. I'm experiencing it. And she described it like this. She said, imagine that, imagine if you go to a train station or you go to the airport and there's the giant big board of destinations. You know, you've got Tokyo and Rome and Istanbul and all these different places you could go. And she said, that's kind of the way it is before you're born. She says, there's this giant board and you pick the types of things that you want to experience so that you'll grow. And maybe you pick something very specific. So I want to have this type of parent, or maybe you pick something that's more general that I want to have a fear of failure or a lack of confidence. And you pick all of these things and then you're born and you don't remember what you picked. But the universe or your soul circle is constantly tapping you on the shoulder to help you remember. And these things show up through our experiences or through people in our story. And
Wow.
at the start, it shows up as just a gentle little tap on the shoulder. And if we listen and we get it, then we move on past that. But if we don't, then it's going to show up again. And the intensity with which it shows up is always going to increase until it comes a giant 2x4 across the forehead. Like, pay attention. Like, you chose this, right? And all of that was just so unbelievable as I was listening to her describe that. And then she talks about an experience she had in her life and how she was abused. And then came the part that was just absolutely mind blowing to me. She said, everyone is an actor in your play. And think about it. In order for you to believe that the reality is actually happening, they have to be the greatest actor that's ever played the part. They have to produce an Oscar winning performance so that you really truly believe that you are experiencing fear or pain or frustration or whatever you've chosen to deal with and grow from. And she says, but in truth, when you die, you see all these people. Sorry, I'm getting teary thinking about this. It was just so
Wow.
beautiful. It still is so beautiful. She said, when you die, you see these people and you realize that the whole time that they were playing their part to perfection,
Wow.
underneath, they were saying, see through me. See through me and remember what you chose. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. And that they are actually the people that are cheering for us the loudest, even though they are playing their part to perfection. I'll tell you, man, when I had that experience, it reframed so many of the moments in my backstory of the things that I had experienced and the people that were part of my story. And it doesn't mean that you want them in your play anymore, like that it's fine
Mhm.
to let them go from your play, but what you see about those moments and who those people were, you see it totally different. And I'll
Yeah.
give you one example. I know this is a long story, but it's such a beautiful piece of what I experienced in the process. One of the reasons it's so powerful is that I think one of the greatest things we can do is to forgive those that have caused us pain. And one of the ways that helps me go through that and has helped me forgive is to realize how much they sacrificed during their life experience to play that role to perfection. Like I have a beautiful relationship with my daughter, and I have that relationship because some of the things that I experienced when I was a kid weren't great. And I realize now that the people who were playing those roles lost out on the chance to have so much fun with me and so many precious moments with me to play that part so that when I became a parent, I could do it differently. And you realize the sacrifice that went into those roles that they played. And it just has completely changed my ability to say thank you and forgive and to move on.
Wow.
I'll send you that book. I think it'll totally connect with kind of the adventures of life that you allow yourself to experience.
I really appreciate that. Wayne Dyer once says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And you're
Yeah.
definitely helping us create a broader lens for the greater good of humanity. So I really appreciate your work. Like,
Well,
wow.
I owe that all to Mama Gombe. She was the one
Yeah.
when I tapped into it. She just explained this in such simplicity, something I had been thinking about and wondering about and trying to figure out for so long. And literally, she just showed me.
Did she ever explain where she was? Like, what dimension? Is she in a different dimension, different timeline?
I always envisioned the timeline from a human perspective to be over 100 years ago. Like it was definitely Africa 100% and Africa that I recognized, but it was not modern. It wasn't current day Africa.
Wow. What does it mean to see through me for those that are listening, maybe not understand?
Yeah. So in that context, it's seeing the role that they're playing as opposed to the dialogue that they're saying or the facial expressions that they're giving. And so to see that they are a soul just like you. And if they're part of your soul constellation, they have chosen to play, in some cases, the villain so that later I can be the hero. Or
Wow.
they play the obstacle so that I can be the hero who grew beyond my hardest moment and then rose to the next level. And again, like when you look at it from that perspective, the sacrifice that that character makes in the play is unbelievable. They never get to be the hero. Right. And
Wow.
maybe as you and I were talking about with simultaneous lives existing on multiple planes of reality, maybe maybe at the same time that they're playing the villain and you get to play the hero, that the roles are reversed in a different life and you're the one that's saying, no, this time I'll do it. This time I'll be the bad guy so that you can be the hero. I don't know.
Yeah, we're talking about that before we pressed record, and
Yeah.
reincarnation or living all these different lives all at once. And it's just fascinating to think about. I'm such an open-minded person. I try to stay open-minded. Yeah, and just try to learn and trying to, yeah, it's just a beautiful topic to think about. I mean, like I said earlier, I remember other lives. I don't know if they were all at one time or reincarnation. I really don't know. It makes more sense to have multiple lives at one time. But then you think about reincarnation, maybe that might be possible. I really don't have the answers, but it's just definitely something to talk about. You know,
Yeah, your question is insightful to me because since I envision the reality that I was experiencing being over 100 years ago in Africa, I don't know the exact time, but over 100 years ago, and yet I was experiencing it in the same moment that I'm experiencing this life, it sort of validates even further for me that although
yeah.
we view time as linear, that in truth it's not, that those time is occurring simultaneously.
Wow. Yeah.
That one's one to just like take a step back and try and wrap your head around. It's crazy when you think about it, but it's a very logical way in which you would design a system for optimizing it.
I love that. The purpose of life. What is the purpose of life for the individual? Is that for something someone, each of us need to answer for ourselves, or is there a collective purpose for this human experience? Do you feel?
Yeah, great question. And I want to hear your answer to these questions too, because they're some of my favorite ones to tap into with other people who are really thinking about this. I struggle with the question of is there just one purpose for all of existence? This goes to the why. Why are we contributing to the collective consciousness? Why does the universe want to grow? Why does it want to expand? I don't know. I mean, you look at the stars at night and you look at the math behind it, and what you can see on a perfectly clear night is I think 0.000000005% of what's in our galaxy. And there's 125 billion other galaxies. Like it's just
Mm,
mind blowing in terms of how much space and existence is out there. And so then when you think about it from that perspective, that, okay, well, our growth is pretty small compared to the whole universe. So maybe it is important, like maybe we're just one cell in the giant entity that is the universe. And so it's worth it for us to grow. And that's a project worth doing. And that's why it's happening. And the people that are 100 million light years away have no idea what it's like on this side of the galaxy. And so, yeah, us learning something about love or about growing sunflowers or about what it's like to see a zebra, that's totally cool to them because they have no idea what it's like.
Mm.
And so maybe that's why it's important. And that's what we're doing as we live the human experience. We grow through what we see. We grow through what we experience. We grow through what we contribute. We grow through the emotions that we learn to deal with and how we exist. I think each of us individually does have a purpose. I think that we wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case. Now, it could be that I want to be an adventurer. Like we were talking about, maybe you make a contract and as a soul, you jump in and you say, I want to be born in 1969 Chicago. And there you are, right? Oh, do you want to be born in a high rise? No, I want to be born in a small house. What color do you want the house to be? I'd like it to be a gray house. Okay, gray house. What kind of parents do you want? And you pick all these things. And then there you are. And you do have a purpose associated with that. My guess is it's a purpose that is somewhat predefined, pre-selected. But I don't know for sure. But I do believe that everybody has a purpose. What do you think?
I think that's an answer we all need to answer for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to me that way. But in short, I think everything I go through is to experience, and everything I go through is for one reason and one reason only. Do I know the answer of that? Why? No, but it's for the expansion of consciousness. It's for growth. And I have no idea why I need to continue to have these experiences to grow consciously or to expand and have some kind of spiritual growth and lessons to be learned. I have no idea on the other side why I need to experience this, but it feels right knowing that, I don't know, it feels more real or more truthful for me that I'm experiencing things in order to grow and expand my consciousness.
The word that came to me as you were describing that from my intuition was to help. Like we grow, we go through what we go through to help someone else. This is such a basic tenet of humanity. If you don't know what you're doing, find someone who is doing it already and doing it well and learn from them. And when we feel super down, when we're at our lowest moments, to know the story of someone who was in a similar place and rose beyond that to achieve something that we also want to do, see, or experience, that can be the catalyst between life and death, literally. And so I think maybe I haven't thought of it in this context before this conversation, but maybe it comes down to that one simple word. Yeah, we're here to go through what we go through to help someone else, somewhere along the line in some other form.
Yeah, I love that. Ram Dass once said, we're all walking each other home.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's perfectly in sync with this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any personal stories and feedback from your books where people read your book and changed their lives, or that may have been struggling with life?
Yeah, I mean, it's so humbling. I can't even tell you, because without going into my backstory too much, if somebody had told me before I was 18, 19 years old that anyone at any point would say to you, thank you, you helped me, or you somehow changed my life, I would have said, there is zero chance of that. Like there is 100% that there is 0%, right? I just didn't have a very strong sense of myself. I didn't have a strong sense of confidence. I didn't have a sense of self-esteem, and I didn't feel like my contributions would be anything. And I can't tell you the number of times that when I say to someone who stood in line for 2 hours and, I thank them, thank you so much for being here. I'm honored that you're here. What brought you here today? And the opening words out of their mouth as they slide a copy of the Café book across the table is, thank you. This book changed my life. Wow. And it never gets old. The formats are always unique and special and different. I remember one young kid, he was probably in his 20s. And I said, thank you so much. What does that mean? In what way has it changed your life? And he broke down in tears and he said, my dad died 5 weeks ago. And he said, I've so struggled to find any sort of meaning in why that's the case. And, he was a young kid, so his dad couldn't have been that old. And he just said that, you know, this book helps me see things in a way that I couldn't see it before. Um, there's been numerous times I'll never forget. I had one event that someone hosted. It was a big event. It was just an amazingly special event, and people waited for 3 hours to do signatures. And I feel like if someone's willing to wait 3 hours, trust me, I'm sitting at that table for 3 hours. Like I never would have imagined my entire life I'd get to do that, right? To get to interact with people and have these conversations. But the challenge is that when you're there for 3 hours, you're trying to sign books and move, right? You know that the other people are waiting too. But this one young kid, she had waited the whole time to be the very last person. And
Wow.
sorry, I think about this story, it makes me emotional every time. She waited that whole time to be the very last person. And she stood in front of me and I said, "Thank you so much for being here." I said, "Your patience is unbelievable. What inspired you to stick around?" And she said, "I wanted to thank you." And she slid her book across the table. And as she did, I could see that her wrists were bandaged. And she had tried to commit suicide. And she said, "I'm here today because of this book. I'm here today because of you."
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know, Booboo. I don't know why I get to be a part of this. Like that book could have picked Casey and Mike, and the characters in the cafe could have picked 1,000 different people. I don't know why. I'm lucky enough to get to be part of this, but it's something that I treasure. It's something that I feel a deep obligation to do my very best to put it out into the world in a positive way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's awesome. And I think maybe the takeaway for anybody who's listening is I didn't have any specific qualifications to do this job. Like I was just doing my best to function as me. And because I at some point decided to follow my heart, to follow my purpose, that this was then given to me as an opportunity. And the takeaway from me is that if we allow ourselves to be the most authentic, best version of ourselves, the one in our heart of hearts we know is there, but we're afraid to show the world, that there are forces at play far greater than us that have a story in mind. And it's really nice to let that story unfold. Trust me, it's really nice.
I love that. I remember when I was pretty new to the sobriety world, you know, the 12-step community. I lost everything worthwhile in life, you know. I hurt all the people that loved me the most. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. But I ended up walking into a 12-step meeting, an AA meeting, and in those early days, I went to Target, and I remember like everything got dark, like a little dim, and then I seen like a light, a book. It was literally a book. It felt like it was looking at me. It felt
Yeah.
brighter than everything else, and it happened to be Neil Donald Walsh's book, Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And I looked at that book and I read what I could understand because I still had problems with reading, and it changed my life. Like it helped. It really helped. Um, turn, you know, a small spark could start a great fire for change, and it really helped light that spark in me. And so have you ever had anybody come to you and say they found your book at the right time and for a certain,
Yeah.
you know, certain at a certain moment without
It's
unexpectedly? Sorry.
honestly, it's one of the things that makes me sad about the lesser amount of bookstores in the US at this point. So I do a lot of work in different countries, and bookstores are much more prevalent there than they are here. Everything is
Wow.
shifted to Amazon here. And what's missing very often, or much harder, I think, is to have that moment where you in the book exchange energy. And yes, I can't tell you the number of times people have said to me, um, your book fell off the shelf in front of me, like literally fell off the shelf in front of me, or I picked it up and I just couldn't put it down, you know? And so I think that things have an energy and stories have an energy. And my suggestion to everyone is follow your intuition, that if you have a moment like that where the book is glowing in front of you, there is a reason why it's glowing in front of you. Go ahead and allow yourself to connect with it and see why it's glowing in front of you, for sure.
That's awesome. That happened to me twice in my lifetime. Another one was a Joe Dispenza's book, but yeah, I've had a few of those moments myself. So
And my guess is it's harder to do, but it still does happen even on channels like yours. So my guess is that people are randomly scrolling through life online and they come across an interview that you've done, and something about that interview says press the play button, you know?
Mm.
So I think it's easier when it's physical objects, but I think it does happen in lots of different mediums.
Yeah, thank you. What is the cosmic algorithm you often talk about?
Yeah. This was a huge aha for me. This is something that just kind of downloaded itself through me. It wasn't something during the process of writing. And it is that, again, technology catching up to technology. So you think about going on Google and you type in honey crisp apples, honey crisp apples, honey crisp apples. You do that 50 times. At some point, Google realizes, wow, John has a deep fascination with honey crisp apples. We don't know why, but he does. And so it is going to start to feed you content about that. It's going to give you articles, videos, snippets of books or products that have to do with honey crisp apples. And so this is the way that the algorithm works. And we understand this. We see this all the time in our everyday lives. My realization was that there is a cosmic algorithm of the universe that is at play that operates much along similar lines. And here's how it happens, that the algorithm is looking at the way we spend our time and what we're doing. And we may be saying to ourselves, I want a better job. I want a better life. But it is looking at the way that we allocate our time, our energy, and our resources. And it's saying, okay, well, I don't know why they keep sitting in that chair in front of that glowing box. Their back is hurting. They're missing their kid's soccer game. They seem to hate the way that that other person yells at them all the time when they're in front of that glowing box. But I mean, they are creatures of free will. They could do anything in this life. And yet they keep sitting in that chair and looking at that glowing box. So I, as a benevolent presence, love them. And since they seem to love that so much, I will give them more of that. And that is the cosmic algorithm at work. And that applies to everything from the way in which we spend our time related to our career, to the types of relationships that we engage in, to the type of people that we let be in our space, let be in our play. And this is super powerful for me as I've adopted in my own life, because it means the more conscious I am about what I'm plugging into the algorithm, I can impact what comes back out. And so it's not just random anymore. Now I'm actually the director of the show. I'm the captain of the ship. I'm the game master as opposed to just being a player within the game. And that is where the whole game changes.
I love that. Going back to your first book, The Café on the Edge of the World, a story about the meaning of life. Is there a metaphor behind that? Is there a deeper meaning behind that?
What's crazy is when I go back and I read the book now, and I've read it countless times in the process of just everything, whether I'm doing a reading or something else, I still find things that I didn't pick up on as it was flowing through me, metaphors that are there and very, very subtle. And I don't want to spoil them too much for someone who's going to choose to read it. But if you, in the process of reading it, look for them, you'll find these connection points, which make you go, oh, look at that. Like that means that. It means so much more than what it says, because it comes across as quite simple, but the metaphors are deep within there. And yeah, I still find new ones every time I go through there. It's crazy. But that's one of the great things about life to me. Books that you love, you read it and you're like, the book has changed. It's not that the book has changed. You keep changing. And so the way in which you interpret what's in the book comes through as a whole new piece of knowledge.
I remember telling a theologian one time, scriptures have different meaning depending on the level of your consciousness. And he kind of looked at me weird because, you hear people going to Bible study. I'm not religious, but, I like to understand everything. I try to, I dabble into religion and spirituality, but, you see groups going to Bible study and they believe there's one meaning. They're taught, sometimes they're taught there's only one meaning to this. But I think there's different levels depending on the level of consciousness, kind of like what you were just saying.
What a beautiful way to describe the connections as opposed to differences. Because there's so much of it is about conflict and differences. Oh, it needs to be exactly this. You got to believe exactly this. And yet, of course, how could I possibly look at that line of text and have the same connection to it as another human being who has grown up with a completely different life? Yeah, you're so right.
I love that. I think when you get caught up in one meaning, it becomes dogma in many ways.
And it's like, I can't remember the exact quote, but I had this epiphany one time that, let's see, if the strength of my conviction is related to the degree to which other people also believe it, then I know I've got a problem.
I love that.
Yeah, because you either believe it or you don't believe it, but it shouldn't really matter whether somebody else believes it too. And that's kind of the issue that we're talking about, or the situation that we're talking about. Someone is so adamant that that one sentence means this. Well, I don't know why. Why does it matter that it just means that for everybody? Why can't it just mean that for you and it means something else for me? As long as we're both getting something out of it, I think it's a win.
Well, the word heretic in Greek means choice.
Really?
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's crazy, huh? So they were labeled heretic because they had their own choice. And orthodox means to think straight, and usually by an authority figure.
wow. So what's fascinating to me about that, because I look at things that are pieces of history and I go, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why people had to go through that. I don't understand why they had to suffer through that. And there is one other piece of the algorithm, which I will throw out there. And that is that it's kind of like playing a video game or playing sports. Like if you, this is in Life's Fire, this is one of the ways in which Mama Gombe explained it to me. Imagine that you show up to a soccer field and this is life. And there you are. It's a beautiful field. There's a goal and you have a ball. And you're like, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. I have this entire field to play on. And so you run up and down the field and you're kicking goals and you're like, goal, goal. And you're just having the time of your life, right? But after about 20 minutes of that, it kind of gets boring, you know? And so what would you do to make it less boring? Well, you'd add some friends. Oh, this is awesome. I'll bring some friends in. And so now you're all on the exact same team. And so there you go. You start on one end of the field and you're working together and you're passing and you're calling out calls to each other. Goal, goal. Like you make it every single time. The teamwork is great. You're laughing. But at some point, that gets kind of boring, right? And so what would you do to make it more interesting? You would add defenders. You would add challenges. And when she described this in the process of downloading Life Safari, I was like, okay. Now I look at life totally differently because, yes, of course, if it was effortless and easy, A, I would get bored, and B, I would learn nothing. And so what I came to realize is that as we continue to raise our level of consciousness, the algorithm goes, okay, Booboo gets it. Like he's totally playing on this high level. In order for us to enable him to continue to grow, which was his soul contract, we got to raise the stakes. Like we have to increase the level of challenge. And don't get me wrong, there are certain days when I'm like, okay, seriously, algorithm, I just need a day off. Like I really, I don't want to level up today. I'm actually fine on level 7. Can I just play here today? I really don't want to go, but I don't think that's the way it works. I think that as you continue to raise your game, that the challenges will show up too. But knowing that that's just the way the algorithm is working changes the way it feels. It can be frustrating at the start, but at least for myself, I sort of have to sometimes step back, laugh a little bit about it, play with the algorithm, and be like, okay, I get it, but I'd like the next half hour off. I don't need the entire day off, but can I just have the half hour off?
I've heard you mention that not everyone's here just to love in one of your talks. And that makes a lot of sense. Like, not everyone is here to just be loving and kind and compassionate. Some people need to play a different role.
Yeah.
People need to get stuck in ignorance and racism and all that stuff that's happening right now. There's different sides to the coin, and you see everyone. Some people, this us against them mentality, and I feel like I'm like in the middle, like not understanding why you hate this person or why this person hate it. Seeing these belief systems just drive people to insanity, which
Yeah.
means not healthy, but unhealthiness. And I don't know, but do you believe there's a reason for all this?
It kind of ties into that thing I was describing with the football field, the soccer field. It's like, okay, we've mastered how to work as a team. And so how are we going to grow? The algorithm is going to change and bring about a confrontation. And throughout human history, you've sort of seen this pendulum swing back and forth and back and forth. And don't get me wrong, in my heart of hearts, I really wish everyone would get along. I wish that we had zero conflict. I wish that people could be super nice to each other and really kind. And every parent treated their child with love and kindness. And in my heart of hearts, that is 100% what I wish for. When I step back from it and in the context of the discussions we've been having, like, what is the point? Like the very first question on the cafe menu is, why are you here? Like, what is the whole point of humanity? I realized that in that setting, maybe we don't grow very much. Maybe that's just like me running on the soccer field all by myself. Like there's a very limited amount of growth that can happen in that scenario. And so maybe the system exists and swings through pendulums because that's what creates the opportunity for a new soul who wants to experience something to experience it. And I don't want to minimize anybody's life experience, right? Someone who's gone through cancer, someone who's gone through abuse. Like, I'm not minimizing in any way, shape, or form what you've gone through. I'm just saying, and I don't validate it either. I don't suggest that it should be anybody's path, that anyone should ever have to experience those things. I'm just saying, in the context of this discussion, that maybe the algorithm is designed that way so that, again, a new soul or a soul who's just completed a round where they got to be awesome and they want to grow from being not awesome, that the opportunity presents itself so that they can grow from that, or that they can be a supporting actor in the play. I don't know. I'm really torn on that one because it's a little bit like seeing animals in a zoo. It crushes me. Like, I love seeing nature out in the wild. And yet I totally understand that if nobody ever interacted with animals in a close setting, there'd be zero appreciation for them and nobody would want to protect them. So I don't know. I'm torn on that one. It's
Yeah.
easy to say when you're not in a position of pain that we need the conflict so that we all grow, but not so easy when you're the one that's in the middle of the pain.
Those are some hard questions.
Yeah.
When
I don't
you
know.
brought up
What do you think?
No, when you brought up the soccer field, I pictured maybe you're the guy running across in the middle of the game, running across the field naked, and the security guards tackle you in front of everyone.
Seriously, I totally agree with you that in the plays of life that are going on, and think about it, there's like 8 billion plays going on of humanity, plus another 100 billion in terms of natural creatures, that there are times when we're the lead, there's times when we're the supporting actor, and there's times when we're just the extra. You're right. There are times when we're the person running across the field naked, we're tackled by the police and dragged away. And that's our only moment in that person's entire play. But for some reason in the soul structure, they were like, hey, we need one to be the naked person running across the field. All right, I'll do it.
That's funny. When I went to when I did the 12 steps, there's a third step, and in the reading of the third step, it talks about the actor trying to run the whole show.
Mm,
And when I wrote some experiences, how I'm always trying to control people, and if you don't behave a certain way, then I'm gonna be resentful or angry at you. And I always wanted everyone to behave a certain way to please me, right? And I was so selfish and self-centered at the time. I didn't understand I was living this way. Always trying to control people if people don't act, and having all these expectations. And then I was easily hurt, or I felt threatened or resentful. And when I started to see that I'm not the director, I'm just maybe the actor, maybe just an extra, it
yeah.
really humbled me to write about my life experiences, and how easily angered I was because people weren't behaving the way I wanted them to behave. And yeah, that really humbled me. So that you brought that, I don't know, that popped up in my mind because I actually had some writing experience with the actor trying to run the whole show. And maybe just being an
Totally.
extra, especially being Hispanic, I'm probably just an extra in the back. We need to
I
change that,
think
by the way.
I think we're the hero in any. My guess is we're all of them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Think about it. Your relationship with the people that matter the most to you. You're definitely the lead actor in that play.
yeah,
And the random moment at the grocery store when the person who's ringing you out is having a horrible day, and you look at them and you smile and you say, hey, thanks so much for everything you did for me today. Like, then you're the extra, but the extra that plays an important part for that one line. And
yeah.
so, yeah, my guess is we're all of them all the time.
Yeah, at one period when I was brand new to that, I guess you can say I was the director, which even though I wasn't, my role was probably just being an extra or just one of the actors, but I kept trying to play the director
Mm-hmm.
without being the director. And when I started to see that, now that I look back at it, yeah, you're right. We're all these different roles from a broader perspective, but at that moment, I was just an extra trying to be the director, and I needed
Well,
to humble
and
myself.
yeah, and sometimes it comes from the most beautiful places. I'll tell you one of the other like beautiful, powerful epiphanies I had because I struggled with anger a lot when I was younger. And I was driving with my daughter. She was just 2. She was in the back seat of my truck and she was in her car seat. And I'm driving down the road and somebody cuts me off, almost hits me. And I was just livid. I mean, I can't tell you how much anger came in, and I have this whole dialogue going on inside my head. Or like, are you effing kidding me? Like, you freaking almost killed us. We would have gone to that ditch over there. And this dialogue is going on for, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. Boo boo. By the time this was all going on in my head. The guy is half a mile down the road. Like, I mean, the moment has passed, you know? And I had this experience, and I had the sort of the outside presence where you're like in the moment, but watching
Yeah.
yourself in the moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing right now? Why are you angry? And when I asked myself that question, sort of the exterior me asking the interior me, I realized that what I was angry of is I was afraid that someone was going to hurt my daughter. And
Mm.
don't you know that that little person is like 2 feet behind me, and I love that human more than anything else in the entire world. I would die in a second for that human. And you, with your foolish driving and your lack of compassion, of course, the driver doesn't know any of that, right? And so I'm thinking all these thoughts, I'm having these epiphanies, and all of a sudden it hits me. Anger is a manifestation of fear. And
Yeah.
that when I'm angry and I allow myself to ask the question, what am I afraid of right now? That it changes the whole game. Like the opportunity to grow in that moment is profound. And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes when I'm just like, I just want to be angry.
Yeah.
I don't care what I'm afraid of right now. I just want to be angry. But when I allow myself to get beyond that, sometimes it takes 30 seconds or minutes or whatever, I realize that it's all a manifestation of my own fears. And if I can get beyond that fear, I can let so much of the need of the anger and the desire to control go away, because I can tap into the cosmic algorithm. I can tap into my intuition. I can tap into all these other resources that are there to help me when I'm trying to protect my kid versus worrying that I have to have it all figured out all the time.
I love that. I've had those experiences myself, so I totally understand. I still have them. Anger does pop up. It's part of the human experience, and but the key is to acknowledge it and understand it. And like you said, fear. Like I always thought I was this fearless dude because I was easily angered and I was violent at one time. But now it's like, oh no, I was just a afraid little boy trapped in this tattooed body. As a matter of
Yep.
fact, I got put this little persona up to protect myself, to portray. Uh, as this tough guy, but deep down inside, I'm just a scared little boy.
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
understood that, it changed everything. So I
And
appreciate that.
And you start to see patterns,
Yeah.
so there's not a lot that sets me off, but one of the things that does sometimes is like you're going through the airport security and like somebody's treating you or somebody else in line next to you in an unnecessarily cruel fashion, you know?
Mm.
And I feel it inside of me. I feel the frustration. I feel the anger rising when I see those types of things. And 100% to your point, I realize like that is a reflection of me as a child who was powerless in a given situation. It's old code
Yeah.
and it's resurfacing because it's been triggered by that moment. And if I allow myself in that moment of feeling the anger to then say, okay, but anger is a manifestation of fear. So what are you afraid of right now? Oh, I'm afraid that someone is going to, limit my ability to be alive, limit my ability to function, limit my ability to help someone else. Okay, but is that really happening in this moment? And the answer is almost always no. So it's fascinating. And I like that. I like in life when you get these little kind of, I don't know what would be the right word for them. I guess little anchors, little positive anchors. So when I feel the anger, I immediately go to, what am I afraid of? Or connection points maybe is a better word than anchor, because it keeps me from driving too far down the road before I
Mhm.
have to like assess what I'm really going through.
I love that. Imagine if everyone talked like this or even took responsibility for their daily actions. This world would change completely.
Yeah. And yet in the same context we've been talking about, then I wouldn't have the chance to grow again. It's,
Yeah.
I really would love to go through TSA every single time and it'd be beautiful and everybody's really nice. But on the other side of that, when I encounter someone who is really nice, which I have many, many times, then it inspires me to take the extra moment and say, hey, you know what? I know you could have had this interaction 1,000 different ways. Thank you for being so funny. Thank you for being so kind. Thank you for having a smile on your face. And that's the supporting role. I'm never going to see that person again, I'm sure. Right. But maybe that was my moment to somehow contribute to them. And yeah, this whole thing is crazy, but the farther back we
Yeah.
step from it, you realize like it's an endless circle. What's that thing called? A Mobius strip? It's like an endless
Yeah.
Mobius strip of learning.
You're right. Thanks for coming on. I would love to have you back and, I'll definitely buy some of your books and ask you more questions about your books. So I really appreciate you coming on. If I could put you on a big screen right now and everyone had no choice but to see you on a big screen in the sky, what kinds of words would you give the world, final words?
Man, I would hope I'd say listen to this whole episode because we just had a really fun and interesting discussion. So I'd probably start there. But if I had to boil it down into just one thing, I think I would reiterate something that you and I talked about, and that is you're not alone. Yeah. If I could only say something so brief, but that I would hope would trigger an emotional and energetic connection between the cosmic algorithm, I would say you're not alone. Yeah. And I think they'd feel that. I would hope they'd feel that.
Well, you got me teary-eyed because when I walked into the 12-step rooms and I lost everything worthwhile in life, my family, myself, I put a 38 to my head, wanted to kill myself. Everything was gone to shit, even lost a sense of self. A guy walked up to me, his name was Sisto, and he gave me a card and it says, "You're not alone." And it said, and he gave me his phone number. He's no longer here in form, but every now and then I could feel him, and I thank him for what he did to help me and guide me. So I appreciate those words of wisdom. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to end it with the Cherokee proverb. When you were born, you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. Thanks for coming on.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Namastizzle. Just know we out here. Know we out here working in a major way. Had to speak on it just to make a play. Any given subject, know we make a way. Time to level up on a day-to-day. Know we out here working for the greater good. Expand your mind, broaden your lens the way you should. From the stars to the galaxy to speak on spirituality. Higher understanding for the neighborhood.